from the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to an episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today, I'm pleased to welcome back again, after almost 2 years, Dev Aditya, who is the co-founder of OIAI by Otermans Institute. Dev, it's so nice to see you again on the show. I feel very happy when I see some of my guests come again, and this time to tell us more where they have been in the journey, just as an reminder for the audience, Dev. So more about you, what is OIAI, and then we can start the conversation from there.
Yes, absolutely, Mehmet. So great to be back here. For us, I think, yes, it's almost been 2 years, but I think that's a good sizable chunk for us to, and for me to update you, your audience, on what we've been doing. And we've been doing a lot. So for your audience, a little bit of a reminder, a little bit of a sort of update as well on what we do. So the world possibly knows us as the people who launched the first public-facing AI teachers. This was in January of 2020, 18 months before ChatGPT, right? And since then, we've had 3 versions of our product. The last time we spoke, I think we were touching about 10 countries, a lot of them at the surface. Now we are servicing learners in 17 countries, right? But I think this is a very exciting time for us to talk, because what we have also now been able to achieve is run our AI completely offline. So perhaps for the next months, maybe even years to come, the world would know us as the ones who are doing education really democratically and enabling it to run in places where people are not even using Google on a regular basis because of internet bottlenecks. So good to be back.
Exactly. It's good to be back, Dev, and thank you again. Now, you mentioned about the story, just for the audience who might missed, that episode. The episode number is, by the way, 212. So it was in September 2023. The idea itself, Dev, because I'm gonna start from there and then talk about, the latest breakthrough that you have done. What was the main motivation? And I remember there was a lot of struggle you talked about at that time. What was the motivation? What was the, as they call it, the aha moment for you, and to go and say we need to build this? What was the main use case?
Absolutely. So it's always good to touch the roots of the journey, right? So I'm going to be talking about that. And I think since our last talk, we've further learned a lot ourselves as an organization as well, I think, which is very important. So let's just start with the story, right? So my co-founder and myself, she was president, I was vice president of Brunel University, London. And we worked very well together. So after that, we said, let's continue our work in education. And we decided to go to South Asia, so mainly Nepal, Bangladesh, and India, and to teach some people, right? We are talking about rural schools, madrasa schools. One of the schools we were teaching was inside a national reserve. On the second day, we saw a leopard. So real rural, right?
Yeah.
So that's how it started, okay? So it went well. We saw real impact on the ground with these people. And then we said, let's, formalize this. Let's make it into an organization, okay? So we did that in February of 2020. And within 2 weeks, what happened? We all remember it. The pandemic happened, okay? So we had to go digital overnight completely. Now, that was good in its own way, because suddenly in the next couple of months, we were servicing 35,000 people. We were servicing for UNHCR camps. We were servicing for UNICEF. We were in about 9 countries, okay? And one of the things we realized in our journey was there's only so much content can do in learning, in the dissemination of learning. So just imagine this. You're going to give people free books. You're going to give them YouTube, Khan Academy, if internet allows. There's only so much it can do. And there are a few people who will really persevere through that to really learn, okay? The gap actually exists in having a teacher, trainer, a mentor, somebody who can answer your questions, who can encourage and motivate you to learn, who can practice scenarios with you, etc. So that's what we were doing. We were human-led back then. But when we reached that 35,000 threshold, even with volunteers, etc., helping us, we just couldn't scale further because it just doesn't work, right? That sort of a model. So that's when we thought, what's a teacher? A teacher is intelligent. So this is way back, before this new cool wave of AI started. But we said, let's try AI. It's got intelligence in it. It's got that automation feel to it, right? So let's try it. So we decided to try that. And luckily, our first product was ready and launched in January of 2021. So that's about 18 months before ChatGPT, mind you, right? And our first students were in a refugee camp, UNHCR-backed, BCF-backed refugee camp in northern Iraq. So that was the story then. Now, fast forward from then to when we spoke to you the last time, that was version 2 of our product, all right? So as you can see, at the epicenter of what we do is always about supporting the marginalized, right? It's about empowering these people. We have a mission to upskill 750 million people by 2030, okay? But when we last spoke, that was essentially a period of mistake. Let me just say that, although I was very excited about it then. One of the initial questions I had at that time from investors, from other people is, okay, you're helping them, but who's going to pay for it? Okay. And that sort of got us in a wrong direction. So when we spoke to you, we were hitting hard for companies, L&D, right? We were hitting hard for higher education. We were hitting hard for schools. Okay. That was not the right thing to do. Today, we are in 17 countries. We are still servicing schools. We are still servicing higher education, right? We are still doing that. But we, after about a year of what I call, sort of loitering in the desert, if you want to call it that way, we realized that we should go back to our dream because we were thinking we are going to get some money from these people and then go back there, right? It just doesn't work that way. So we had to go back to our dream. So today we are back in our dream. And to make this dream, we consciously worked for the last year and a half to make our AI offline. Because in the marginalized space, there are only two bottlenecks. It's hardware, right? And it's connectivity. So we've solved the connectivity gap. We've also solved the hardware gap because ours is the only system that can run on edge in 2020 Oppo style phones, okay? You don't need the latest Samsung or whatever. So we were able to do this. Now we are deep in places like Africa and Latin America. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about it. And in August, we are going to do Africa's largest and the world's fastest AI literacy upskilling. So very exciting, and it's really refreshing to be back in line with our original mission.
I remember one of the things that stopped me when we talked the last time, and of course we kept the conversation, is this idea of, democratizing learning. And I remember about also like how the AI as teacher would adapt to different cultures, because you deal with multiple countries, different cultures, and people in need. And I remember the example you gave last time about, like, imagine maybe, I don't know, it's a rural area in some place, maybe in Asia, Africa, and they don't have access to teachers, and now AI can come here. So this is by itself fascinating. Now, before I go to the technical part, you mentioned about the monetization part of it. So what have changed from that perspective, Dev? Like, of course, kind of impact projects like what you're doing. And I know for a fact a lot of people would still invest in this, but they would ask again, like, how would you commercialize this? Um, Anything changed from the last time we spoke? Like, what happened on the business side? Because I'm keeping the more exciting stuff about the edge, to the next questions. But tell me more about, the business side.
Well, the business side is exploding. Okay, so we made a mistake, right? It was principally a philosophical mistake. We were not really enjoying ourselves. We didn't fail. So I'll give you an example. We are working with private school groups in the UK now. Per contract is over 100,000 a year, AR, all right? And these contracts go for multi-years because schools don't change software every year. So we won there and we are continuing to grow. US is a very big market. But we are only siphoning that, and we have a specific team now who are doing it to 30% of our work, because we have to empower 750 million people. We have to empower those people who we first came to serve, right? Now, without going too much into the business angle of it, because there are certain things that we will be launching in December to talk about it, let's pinpoint on one factor here which enables us to do this, and we can also then talk about value. All right. The point is, today, if a learner in rural Iraq, right, in rural Afghanistan, in rural Côte d'Ivoire, wherever in Africa, right, if they are using our systems, the pain of AI systems, right? You've got the training costs, that's fine, and you've got inference costs, right? We have near zero inference cost. So from a business standpoint, we are the cheapest AI, specifically in learning, in the world today. All right. Do we scale? Let's talk about value now. Do we scale and get and serve a couple of million people? That's what we are doing. Are we supported by people? We are supported now by UNESCO bodies, by UNDP, by governments in multiple countries in Africa, right? And we are really going in there to spread rapidly because we do not have a painful cogs, and in certain aspects, cogs by any chance. Okay. So now let's just talk about it from a value standpoint. We've got an enterprise style business that's working, all right, that's growing, and we'll grow it slowly, but with a very strong foundation. But we've got another one where learning can suddenly become, what can we say? It can be sort of scaled like never before. And this is the holy grail of learning. You're talking about a teacher. It's not just watching videos somewhere, right? So this is the entire change. And this is because we went back to our philosophy.
That's interesting to hear from you, Dev. Now, what I'm curious about is more the technology side of it. Now, you mentioned that now I can run, or I can have the teacher even on a kind of Oppo style phone. This is like a very bold statement, I would say. Let's deep dive a little bit into this. Just to hint on something, I think this topic of having ability to run not only AI, like any type of compute heavy application on edge is something every enterprise, every company, even from personal use perspective, people want to achieve this. Now you get this proprietary AI that you have developed that is able to run on the edge offline. Offline, you're saying this is big. What can you share about it? I know, like, you might not be able to share the nitty gritty of it, but on a high level, if you can explain to us how that works, and later maybe we can follow up on the impact of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. We can share that, and maybe Mehmet at some point, which I'll discuss later with you, I can also share it for you to touch and see, right? But let's, yes, but let's just come back to this technology. It's not just the AI, all right? This is a heavy engineering piece, right? So there is only so much you can do with your sort of, the AI optimization. If you're talking about, the knowledge element, knowledge distillation, if you're talking about quantization, right? Everybody's trying that. We have peak performance there, but it's just not about that. Our system has 3D avatars, voice first, all right? Multiple lessons, an LLM running on a 2020 Android 11 Oppo phone, right?
Wow.
That's the breakthrough. That's the breakthrough. And our system is also sort of multi OS. So we are on Android, we are on Chrome for Android, we are on .exe for Windows, we are on Linux, okay? So that's how much we built it, and it works, right? And we're not going to actually hide it. We're not going to do that. That's why I said the other business models are coming. Post September to December this year, we're going to launch it as an SDK, because we need a part of AI in the world that does not have to bow down to the frontier models. Because in a lot of our use cases, you don't need a trillion or 100 billion parameter model. It's like driving a Ferrari to your supermarket, right? You need the right use case and AI to do the magic. So we will be launching it as an SDK. We've done a soft run already. People love it. Okay. But another fun part of this is, and that's where we might get stuck, but I really want you to touch it, is we don't have a Mac yet, the iOS. The reason for
Mm-hmm.
that, of course, is because this version of the product is for that part of the world where iOS is not big. But it's got Linux, it's got Windows, it's got Android, it's got Android Chromebook.
Dev, you mentioned something fundamental, which I like it, is like you don't need to overcomplicate things as long as you can do the job, even
Mhm,
on, less parameters, especially when it comes to LLMs. Absolutely makes sense. Now, the question for you, because,
mhm,
when we talked in September 2023, it was like only 10 months, I believe, since, or like maybe 11 months since ChatGPT came out. And, although like you started even before, right?
mhm.
But since then, what happened, we started to see kind of push for open source, LLMs that people can customize and run it on their, own machines, right? We saw like a lot of things. So we saw the DeepSeek that, even I remember that week the stock market dipped a little bit and then it,
Yeah.
it reverted back. So my question, how much these breakthroughs that were happening in parallel adjacently, like also kind of maybe inspired you to say like, yes, this is something doable. We can, if DeepSeek is able to do it cheaper, right? And regardless of what people said, and their claim, but still they were able to do it on much cheaper hardware. uh, what I'm interested, like not the DeepSeek as DeepSeek itself, but this idea of making LLMs open source. You're mentioning about the SDK, how much that played a role in sharpening this vision, that and I like, by the way, when you said you pivoted a lot, this is a healthy thing to happen. So but how much that, storm that was happening on the edges, I would say, beside, sharpened this vision and made you believe that yes, we can do it, we can actually run this full thing, LLM, avatar, video, sound, on any hardware, or any like operating system, of course, from the ones that you mentioned. So take us through this, this journey of how much that what was happening outside sharpened this.
To be honest, it didn't. Not
Hmm.
a lot, right, Mehmet? I'll tell you why. Because we had our first soft launch on Android only before the DeepSeek moment. Okay.
Okay.
uh, and we were not blowing it too much because we wanted to be able to hit the gas, which we are now. We're doing, the fastest AI upskilling in Africa, and that's a scalable model for 600 million people. We'll get to that later. But the point is, it didn't impact that much. Sometimes I see things that are coming out, like the new Gemini 3N model. We've been working around that for a while, and mind you, we're just a team of 20, right? So on the weight class, we are very good at what we do. But the point also is, we don't pivot, at least now with the maturity that we have gotten into ourselves. We don't pivot because of the storm or whatever else is happening in the world of AI, because AI changes every day, right? We
True.
changed because we understood that this is the pain point. I can do 100 billion parameter model. I can do the best UI and stick a GPT back there. But these guys are not even using Google on a regular basis. The only time they try and get onto the online is when they have to use their mobile wallet to pay. Okay. There's another problem. Some places they say they have internet, but they've got 1 Mbps. Doesn't work. Right. So that's the pain point that we are trying to solve. And that's a blue ocean. Why is it a blue ocean? Because if you see, everybody's competing. We want to be the next ERP software. We're going to fight SAP and Oracle. Okay. We want to do this. We want to do that. But everybody's above that line. Nobody's in the disruption zone. This is 750 million to 1.5 billion people who are still not served. And
Right.
our AI teacher, before also in the cloud, has served and attained things like 95% course completion rates. So, for the audience, Normally, an online course completion rate is around 7 to 15%, 95%. Now, imagine we take this and give it to these people who haven't even had a proper digital experience. That's where we want to go with this. And that's why, we were very specific on our needs. Like every decision is like, Android first because it's the Oppo phones. Then they have these desktops, not even laptops in schools. So it has to be Windows 10 as well. And then we need to be in Linux. They're using all of these things. It was strategically planned to do. And luckily, we were able to achieve this today.
Great. Now let me kind of play the devil advocate here with you. It's amazing, fascinating to have, everything you have built before to run on the edge, offline, and perfectly. Now, part of, the things that AI, when it's connected to kind of a back end, which is the cloud, is the ability to do two things. First, to track the progress, and the second is to like more personalize the experience. How you would achieve this, Dev, in such environment?
Very good question. And there's a answer because we've talked about it. AI without data analytics is useless. Okay. We know that, right? So essentially, again, the data piece, right? Private data not included. So all your private data does not leave your device. We are talking about vulnerable population. The private data never leaves the device. Okay. But that said, we've done our system in such a way that an app also has to update, right? All of these people touch the internet for a couple of minutes to a couple of hours a month. They have to, specifically in the Kenyan context, right? They have M-Pesa, they pay online. We can do an entire update and take all of the relevant data for personalization, localization, whatever else in under 3 minutes. So every time they're in the net in 3 minutes or under, that swap is done, right? So we are not sacrificing anything. And that's also an engineering piece because a lot of the, the data collection, the sort of fragmentation, all of those parts which are traditionally raw data is taken up and then sorted out in the cloud is done on the device. So when we pull exactly what we need and want, and we push what they need and want.
That's just out of curiosity. Have you, registered any patents for this, Dev?
No, I haven't. It's worth thinking about, but to be honest, in the world of AI and software, somebody will find a different way of doing it. We are just going to we are going to do it differently from September. We've got some feedback already. We're going to push the SDK out. It's better to be at the forefront of it. It's better to support other people who want to do similar things, right? We may have some guardrails so that they don't hit us directly in our business, but the more people they use it, the better it is. And it's good to be a leader in the space because nobody can, you can raise $80 billion as OpenAI and then you're still struggling, right? Meta is coming and taking your top people away. So why do this, patent drama and all of that? It's better to be in the forefront and keep, if you can get the right minds to support you, you're always at the forefront because it's a collective effort.
Cool. Now, this breakthrough, of course, the use case you talked about, the impact touching the segment, the large segment, 750 to 1.5 billion people in, different part of the world where, getting the latest and greatest is not possible. That's fantastic. Now, in your mind, what do you see some other use cases that can be applied? Like in addition to, you know, the traditional learning or teaching, let's call it this way, how I can benefit from this in such economies, which like the African economies or maybe the rural areas of the countries you mentioned. What else can we get out of that?
Great question, Mehmet. There are two ways I'll answer this, right? First, I'll just talk about our model. And secondly, I'll hint on something that you were possibly hinting on, which I personally find exciting. So the first part is, in this trajectory, we have a model which we've developed. It's called the SEA model, okay? SEA. The S in the C essentially stands for skills. So teaching, training, upskilling, right? Every country has to teach, train, and upskill their population and also in a direction. All right. That's what our AI teachers do. Now we get data analytics from places where there is no data captured for most of these governments, or it's still in pen and paper. Your roll call is in pen and paper, your vote is in pen and paper, everything is pen and paper. We are digitizing that for them. That is data efficiency, which is the efficiency for E, right? And E is accessibility, which is no internet, no problem, we are there. No
Okay.
latest hardware, no problem, we are there. So that's the C model, okay? So this is not just about the AI teachers. It can help the economy of the whole country. That's why we are working. Like in the Africa context, we have ministries we are working with already, all right? So that's that context. The other side of this I'll just leave to you and the imagination of your listeners. But again, just coming back to that point, if they're not using Google regularly or whatever else, right, and they use this regularly, properly, this is their first digital experience. So if you remember 2013, the next billion lab, I think Google started it or whatever, to get to the next million people, they couldn't succeed because of these bottlenecks. This is their first proper digital experience. Now in the West and in UAE, where you are, we also know the next wave of digital experience is going to be voice first, right? What is our system? It's voice first. So can we jump the gun here and that system with some other sort of expansion to it also serve other purposes? Absolutely. But our first target is the education and learning. But if that relationship builds, if that experience holds, we have a lot more ground that we can very easily capture.
Absolutely. Now, beyond voice, because you mentioned voice first, and I tell people I'm not like a fortune teller, but I spot signals. And I
Mhm.
remember, I said the first time I start to see, the what OpenAI, 11 Labs, and other companies start to do in that, you know, space.
Mhm.
I said like, we're going to the voice first in everything because
Mhm.
it's the natural thing that we are born with. Like we like to talk, right? Like we
Yes.
like to interact using voice, but also we like to see. And this
Mhm.
is the question, and just out of curiosity, Dev, do you think you can take this technology also? Of course, I know there's the video part, right? So the avatar appears on a screen, but what if we want to, and excuse me if I'm a little bit here exaggerating things. I want to take it to the next level. I want maybe if I know like the how you call it, like maybe if someone in parallel works on affordable technology that allows also the virtual reality for these countries. So do you envision this, like to have the teacher that the artificial intelligence teacher that you have, so me, a child in Africa or a child in maybe Cambodia or I don't know, in a rural area. So I put that glass and I see my teacher. Am I too much futuristic here?
No.
Or
You know why I'm smiling, Mehmet? And if there is something more to discuss on is, I would really love to discuss with you
sure,
because
please.
one of the things we've learned also is hyper focus. That's what we are doing. But in November of 2024, we have already built VR with embedded LLM. We've done it. So
Wow.
what you're saying, we already have it. But is that we have hardware constraints in these countries, right? If you remember the bottlenecks
Absolutely, yes.
connectivity in hardware. So that's parked at the moment. The moment we can get that in, it's ready.
Yeah, this is why I ask you, Dev, because I'm sure this discussion, and I'm hopeful
Mhm.
that you know what, like people comes and tell me sometime, like what else can we do, like everything is like already there. Still we have a lot of problems to be solved, and I always refer them to, I would remember the name of the book very 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 shortly. And there's another like thought leader who keeps saying you just keep need to find these problems, and if you can solve 1 million people problem and just sell it for $1, here you go, you have a $1 million business. And
Yes.
for me, what you just mentioned, for example, look at what you have done. The still we have the challenges of getting proper internet, of getting hardware affordably. So I think that's maybe also another space for people to innovate in that. You did it on the software layer, which is fantastic, right? So because now it's not possible. Maybe we still need, I don't know, I'm just making up the number. Maybe we still need 5 years, but we don't want. So what you have done, I don't want to wait 5 years until computing becomes affordable in Africa. You want to say something, I think, Dev, right?
Yes, as I said, we are hyper focusing, but if there's an opportunity, it's a podcast or whatever. I'm just saying, let's have a conversation around it, because I'll just give you a little bit around it, right? Africa, that's where we are going, right? And we are going to schools and all of these places. Now, that's great, and this will come there. But this is what this technology does, the one we have developed for AR, VR with embedded AI. It's just not about you having a teacher, right? Which makes sense, because AI is about hyper personalization, the holy
Right.
grail of learning. VR and AR is about immersiveness, the holy grail of learning. You put them together, and that's the perfect piece. Okay, that's fine. But I'll just say the different thing, because it's a technology show. What we can now do is, if you just think about a traditional video game, right? In a
Mm-hmm.
traditional video game, you have a level, so you have characters, you have to choose one of three dialogues, and you take your level path, right? We've
Right.
built child's games in MVP format, which you have endless possibility of conversation. So you can have a game today with a character, with an LLM in each character. We can do that, right?
Wow.
So it's done. And it's in the same trajectory, right? It's part of that layer, because we control right from fine tuning, of course, because of all of that. But our edge layer, our RAG layer, our the optimization piece, which I can't say too much about that layer, but we are essentially 6 layers deep in terms of our research, which leads to products.
And I think that there is no limitation in, what kind of topics I can go and pick to learn, right?
No, no, no. You can upload a PDF and it'll teach you that.
No, because my idea is, if also we can put in the hands of the population, the mass, and teach them also about, let's say, business, entrepreneurship. It's not like about the traditional education in the sense of what they call it, the STEM. Don't get me wrong, STEM is very important, but to teach people about these other skills that, in my opinion, and I think maybe we touched on it in the previous episode we did, is teach them how to run a business, like, right? Today we started to see this solopreneurs and vibe coders and all this. I would love to see people from every continent, every place on earth, that are able to know and learn. Of course they need to learn, they need someone to teach them, and this is where you come into the picture, Dev, with what you have built. Because maybe, look, you and me, we were lucky, and maybe we had mentors in business that came and teach us. But imagine if you put this in the hands of the mass population. Like, wouldn't it be nice, you think?
Yes, absolutely. I fully agree with you. I'll just give you two examples which
Sure.
which may show you that we are already doing this in a certain degree. Okay. First of all, let me give an example. In schools, we obviously teach the UK curricula, we teach the Kenyan curricula, we teach whatever curricula, right? So firstly, it's localized. It's not a GPT. You don't know where the information is coming from. Your curriculum, university, your lecture, your curriculum, right? So that's fine. That's the first part. The second part is the breadth of this. We've taught law, psychology, etc., hard skills, right? But our single biggest at the moment hit, if you want to call it, is employability skills training. 17 countries and counting. You see how important that is. Are we doing
Exactly.
entrepreneurship? Yes. Are we doing sort of green education in that own way for farmers, etc., to understand global warming and all in Kenya? That's what we're looking at with Tibet Ministry. Now we are doing AI literacy on the UNESCO framework. So it is content agnostic. Okay. So that's essentially that part covered. Now, the second part also I'm saying is, of course, this system teaches you. All right. So let's take a business example. This system teaches you, you've learned business, you started a startup, Mehmet is your investor. Let's say that. Okay. Now you've had a board meeting and Mehmet's not very happy. You can talk to the same AI teacher and say, hey, this is what happened. This is what we've learned. This is the data. What else can I tell Mehmet? It will tell you. It's the same thing, right? It's not only teaching you, it's there with you 24/7. The same thing for your no, just like before an exam, you can ask, hey, tell me about this, or this scenario is coming. What could be the answer? It's the same for entrepreneurship. It's the same for whatever else. So it starts as a teacher, but it stays with you, right? That's that extension piece.
Because you have the engine built already, so you can load whatever it is, right?
And it knows what you have loaded before, and it knows you because it's talking to you every day.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is really fascinating, Dev. Now, you mentioned about some, upcoming upcoming like things in the few months from now. What's now your, I would call it your long-term vision, Dev? Where you want to take this?
See, we've always built this for the long term, right? If anybody ever asked us for a quick sale, we would say no, right? We still hold that. That's why we've struggled so hard and worked so hard. Where are we going? We are hyper focusing. So we still work with some universities, but that's not where we are hyper focusing. Also, because in the West, where they can pay, they don't have their policies in order yet. They still don't know what to do with AI, right? So where are we focusing? Our enterprise model is absolutely focused on private school groups. So UAE, we haven't explored. We know there's a great opportunity there. UK, it's blasting. Special education in private school groups. We are the best in the world right now because we've got that much deep. We've built the cent part of our product with the UK's second biggest send special education, private school group for 9 months, right? So that's that piece. In terms of our larger 70% piece, which is close to our heart, we are really focusing on Africa right now. So in August, we are going to be upskilling 25,000 mostly marginalized learners in Kenya on AI literacy, right? We're going to stick to that because we already have 2 county governments who have come in and we are being challenged to do 50,000. Let's see if we can do it. That's already there. At the same time, we have our government partnership with the government of Sao Tome, which is on the other side, Africa's smallest economy, right? It's on the west. Same time. Now, come September, it is bound to be a success. We need to obviously make it better or whatever, right? Come September, we will now be scaling this to the 47 counties of Kenya, right? To Guinea-Bissau and other countries in the west, and then get into the mainland properly. So it's an east-west attack. Now, the best advantage we have is if word of mouth kicks in, because it might, right? If word of mouth kicks in, on top of it, we have the UN bodies, we have the government supporting us. This could really explode and explode in such a way where we don't have inference costs, right? We won't hit that bottleneck that, what's our sort of cogs? What's our cogs? We can handle that. So that's really the exciting part here.
Absolutely. Uh, so this is for the audience. Like as you can see, it's the AI meeting education, or edtech, if you want to call it, at its best. Like they've really, I like the energy. It was there before, but I can see the breakthrough that you've done. It's fascinating. Coming from a like engineering background and having the ability of running something without, because I grew up, and the internet was not something affordable for me when it first came. And I understand the struggle, and I know in economies especially like Africa, there's plenty of talents, and all what they need the tool, right?
Mhm.
And if you don't have, and I like what you said, like if it's not there, we come into the picture, right? So you're offering that. That's really fascinating. Anything that you want to highlight? Anything maybe I missed to ask you?
No, I think it's an exciting time. I don't know, you're very busy, Mehmet, but maybe we can speak September, October once because we'll have the results then.
With pleasure. With pleasure.
Yes. And I think the other thing is just piggybacking on what you said, we will be there. Let me just explain that a little bit differently. Again,
Sure.
everybody is fighting above the line. Okay, good for them. I don't want to fight there. So when you're talking about below the line, this is this opportunity, right? I'll give you the example of Vietnam. Vietnam
Right.
never really had landline phones. They jumped straight to the mobile, all right, because of the war or whatever. But they are at par, right? Right now, they have better internet speeds than some parts of the UK. This is that opportunity because you need that teacher in the equation. Just giving books, donating books, and whatever else won't work. And this is that opportunity. So if this AI literacy scales, we're not going to stop them after that. They're going to get AI literate, but they're going to get other lessons and other lessons and other lessons. So yeah.
Absolutely. Where people can get in touch, Dev, if someone is listening today, whether they want to be part of this, whether they are interested to test that, or they want maybe to help opening doors also as well in Africa or elsewhere.
Thank you for that opportunity, Mehmet. So you can just write to me directly. It's dev, DEV, @oiedu.co.uk. So dev@oiedu.co.uk.
Great. Thank you so much, Dev. Really, it's exciting times. A lot have changed since we spoke in September 2023. Uh, and as you said, the AI changes every day. When you mentioned, yeah, absolutely, it changed very fast. The people talks about, negatively generally, and I tell them, guys, let's just ignore everything and look at the bright side. And I think what you're doing, Dev, with the team is something fascinating. It shows the power of technology, the power of AI being used in goodwill, being used for good causes, for impact. I love it. Just I don't I don't do that much on the show, but again, like it's something close to my heart because impact, enabling developing economies, getting the next generation of people who are literate in AI and other technologies, business as you mentioned. It's really fascinating. Thank you very much, Dev, for being here today. And I will make sure that I will put the links in the show notes, or if they are watching this on YouTube. Thank you again for being here with me today. Dev,
Thank you.
as you know, before I close, I have to speak to my audience. So this is for the audience. Guys, if you just discovered this podcast, thank you for passing by. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did so, please give me a favor and subscribe, share it with your friends and colleagues. As you can see, we are trying to do an impact with guests like Dev who are building fascinating technologies for the next generations. And if you are one of the people who keep coming again and again, thank you very much for your loyalty. Thank you for your support. I'm really, really grateful. I know like I'm repeating this in every episode, but recently the podcast is doing fantastically well. We're being on the top 200 Apple podcast charts in multiple countries. The latest I checked, it was 8. I never seen this in the journey since 2.5 years. It can happen without two factors. First, you, the audience, thank you very much. And second, my guests, including you, Dev, and you are a second time guest. And I'm sure we're gonna have your third time also as well. So thank you very, very much. And as I say always, stay tuned for a new episode very soon. Thank you. Bye bye.
Hit that subscribe button, share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.